So last week, well, we've been going through all the 12 powers that we learned in Unity from Charles Fillmore. And I believe this is the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. Last week, Reverend Araceli did zeal, that power of enthusiasm, of passion. And I think she had plenty of passion for us, so we're very grateful for that. So today's power being strength, I'd like to ask you to see where you are at the moment. What's the strongest day of the week? Friday. Because it's where the week becomes strong. Never mind. But personally, I think it's Sunday because it's where we get our spiritual strength. So the power of strength is one of the 12 powers, as I mentioned, that Charles Fillmore taught for us to take a hold of. Now, the 12 powers is somewhat related, similar to the chakras, not quite the same, because instead of 7 or 8, depending on how you're counting, and some people count more of the chakras, we got 12 specifically. And as you probably know by now, each power is related to one of Jesus' disciples. The disciple for the power of strength is Andrew. And he's one of the two first disciples that Jesus called to him. And it was Peter and Andrew, and they're brothers. And Peter is, as you may remember, related to faith, and Andrew is related to strength. Now, a few of you got the memo, got the green. We're in the specifically spring green. I have to tell you something. My favorite color is green. But I went to look for a shirt, and I have other shirts, but I don't have a shirt that I can wear with a suit that is green. So Melissa, my wife, found me this one. It's got some green in it, so I hope you like it. The location, the center in your body for the power of strength is what they call the loins, or right back here, the lower part of your back. And it relates to strength because that's where you have very strong bones and strong muscles that come together. If you know anything about weightlifting or bodybuilding, if I'm not mistaken, the way that you can lift the most weight that anybody can lift is to what they call do the deadlift. And it is using your back, of course, bending your knees and doing this. If you've seen any competitions, that's where you see the largest weight that these people can lift. So, and by the same token, the disciple Andrew, think about it. He was a fisherman. You know, working, throwing the nets, bringing in the fish. I'm sure him and his brother Peter had to be strong to be fishermen. Any fishermen here? Not that we fish the way they used to back in the day, but I like to add that, and I think I got this because I forgot to jot it down when I saw it, but I think it's from Paul Hasselbeck's Power Up book about the 12 powers, that he says strength is one thing that is underutilized in New Thought. You know, New Thought, we want to be, rightfully so, all about love, all about compassion, but we may not think about strength. We think strength might not be a good thing to be looking for or after. But the truth is that strength, we need to have it be part of our collection of powers because when we develop each and every single one of them, we are getting closer to our spiritual self. I want to add here about how Jesus tells us even the relation between faith and strength. And it's from Matthew 17:20. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. While I was thinking about this, I thought about the mustard seed or any seed, and think about it that we can use it to relate to our growth and strength, developing our strength. You take a seed, you plant it in the ground, and as long as you're watering it, letting the sun come through, it will start to grow. At first, I say you need to have patience, right? How many are patient here? That's pretty good. Of course, I've been very impatient in my life, so I don't know about the rest of you. But yes, we need to have patience. We need to water it, let the sun come in, and it starts growing. Once it sprouts, it starts growing quicker and quicker, doesn't it? So we can think of our power of strength the same way, or any of our powers. We need to slowly work on them, and as we get used to them, we can see things happening quicker for us. So let's look through those three aspects of strength. We got the physical strength, mental strength, and spiritual strength. Physical strength, as I mentioned, of course, is about being physically strong. And of course, the first thing we think of is somebody with big muscles and stuff like that. But think of strength also as just being able to endure. I'm thinking about those athletes, runners, cyclists. They're not huge physical guys, but think about the strength that it requires to run for miles and miles at a certain pace, or cyclists. Even the triathlons, even when they're doing those races, that they include swimming. Now, it's not just the physical aspect of strength that they work on. They have to work on the mental strength. I've always thought about the super athletes, if you will. We all, I'm sure, heard of Michael Jordan. More recently, of course, we got LeBron James or Stephen Curry. And yes, physically, I look at them, and they're not necessarily stronger or even more talented than the other players around them. But what makes them special? I really see it as their mental strength. When we hear others talk about these specific players that are at the top of their games, all the other players around them, they always talk about their mental endurance, their mental strength, that no matter what, they keep going. When they're practicing, they practice more than the others do, longer. They practice one single little thing that they do over and over and over again till they become masters at it. I saw this quote while I was doing my research, and I'm like, yeah, this goes with mental strength, which has to do with courage, of course. And you might have heard of somebody, a British Prime Minister called Winston Churchill. And he says, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Think about that. Success is not final, and that might sound negative. You would wish that success is final and you just keep having success, but we're in a dualistic world, so you're going to have success, you're going to have your life with ebbs and flows. So yes, success is not final, so you're going to have those failures. But guess what? Failure is not fatal. And it's also not final, so you will have successes again. And as Winston Churchill says, it is the courage to continue that counts. So the next one, being spiritual strength, what do you think it is? Spiritual strength is having the confidence and having the faith that God is always with you, always guiding you. And all you have to do is become aware of it. Get conscious to listen to that divine guidance so that you can move from your highest self. I like to quote A Course in Miracles, where it says, "The Holy Spirit teaches that all strength is in God and therefore in you." Think about that. Why would we say that if all strength is in God is in us? Well, if we say that we are children of God and we are part of God and vice versa, any attributes that we talk about God, it should be ours too. So why not have that strength of God for ourselves? So true strength is trusting in God. True strength is trusting that when we want to do something, when we desire to do something in life, take anything on, that the divine presence is always with us, always guiding us. And with that little faith, we can have that strength to carry on, to keep going, and not worry about it so much, about what we're going to do, what's going to happen next. Reminds me about the whole, I think it's a Chinese proverb about the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So all you have to have is that strength to take that first step, and then to take that next step, and then the next one, and so on. And before you know it, you will have traveled 1,000 miles or whatever it is that you need to do in life. Now, Winifred Wilkinson Hausman, in her book, Your God-Given Potential, which is also about the 12 powers, of course, tells us that physical and mental strength must be rooted in spiritual development of the strength faculty. So we talk about the physical strength, the mental strength, but if you think about it, if you first come from your spiritual strength, your mental strength will be united with the divine. So you can come from that strength and do the physical things that you need to do to make things happen the way you would like. Now, how do you work on this? Excuse me, this thing is bugging me here. How do you work on your spiritual strength? I'm sure you've never heard me say this before. Prayer and meditation. Anybody heard me say that before? I guess somebody did. Okay. So yes, if we want to develop our strength or maintain it, we want to have a disciplined routine of prayer and meditation. I keep saying it all the time. Once a day. Don't wait to do once a week, every other week, once a month, and thinking that if you wait for the end of the month and pray and meditate for 2 or 3 hours, that you're going to do great. Think about a bodybuilder waiting a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and then going and then trying to lift the heaviest weight he can. He would hurt himself, right? So in a way, think about that. If you're not praying and meditating daily, even if it's just a few minutes, you could, in a way, be hurting yourself by not doing that. I also want to mention that being strong is not just about getting things done, what you can do, but it is also about taking a break, resting, just maybe even slowing down and being in the now. I'm sure you've heard before about that being in the now might be a good thing for you, right? So I like to offer that before you begin any projects, before you embark in anything. Be ready to pray, meditate, to come, to be in the now. I've mentioned this before, but if you want to do something, and actually anything in life we should be doing at all times, instead of living from that sense of that we have to do in order to have so that we can be, we got to flip that around. And you have to be first, to be in the being. And from that state of being, you will know what to do. And then the have will just kind of happen without having to worry too much about it. So be first, then do, then have. Because if not, it's like the story, and see if I remember correctly, about there's a man by the beach fishing, and he looks like he's not doing well financially, all dirty, raggedy clothes. And there's a businessman that happens to be walking by the beach and sees him, and he's thinking to himself, this person's not doing too well. Why isn't he doing something about it? So he goes up to him and tells him, why don't you try to do something like get a job? And he says, why would I do that? He's like, so you can get some money. And why would I want to do that? Well, so you can save it, be able to have things for yourself, to eat, clothing. And if you save enough, you can retire. And why would I do that? Well, once you retire, you can go out to the beach, go fishing if you want. And he's like, that's exactly what I'm doing already. So I hope I said that the right way. It was something like that. So yeah, another quote that I like to, another verse from the Bible, and it is about following your truth, is from Isaiah 30:15. For thus said the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. So that's about taking time out, trusting that when you return to your restful place, that's where your strength is. Another way of saying it is that following your truth is strength. I like to add Isaiah 40:31. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount out with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So yes, being in the presence of the Lord is following your truth. It's very similar to what I say all the time, that you want to align your heart mind with God, with divine mind, so that your thoughts are divine thoughts. And from these thoughts, you can do the things that you ought to do in the world to be of service, so that you can bring your highest to the world, and in turn, you can see the world mirroring that back to you. You know, we talk about whatever you see out here is a mirror of yourself. Who believes that? Yeah, a few of you. That's a good start. Another thing I'd like to mention about strength. You may think about, strength and strong, about being rigid, being firm. But the truth is, there needs to be flexibility in that. I like to quote Tao Te Ching, where it says, "The soft and supple are the companions of life, while the stiff and unyielding are the companions of death." Let me repeat that again. The soft and supple are the companions of life. The stiff and unyielding are the companions of death. Think about that. That's pretty heavy. They're saying if you're not flexible, basically, that it could be death to you. Now, that could be true. It makes me think about how the palm tree can withstand storms, hurricanes, not because it's the most rigid, because like all the trees, it would break, right? Instead, the palm tree kind of just bends with the wind, which reminds me a quote from martial arts master Bruce Lee, who was a fledgling philosopher. And once he was being interviewed, and he was talking about why he could do the things he do and the strength he had, but he was talking about the flexibility. And the words he used was, "Be like water, my friend. Be like water." Think about what water is. If water's flowing through here, it just becomes the shape of whatever it is going through. It can go through here. If it was just some kind of solid piece of wood or something, and you throw it against something, it gets stopped. But water just flows through wherever it needs to go. So be like water. I like to think of it as also for the strength. Yes, you have to be firm yet flexible. It's kind of like what we hear about the yin and the yang. And I like to add another quote from A Course in Miracles that I think kind of relates to it. The lion and the lamb, lying down together, symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict. Think about that. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally in peace. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. It does not confuse destruction with innocence, because it associates innocence with strength, not with weakness. So we've heard it said before that Jesus is the Lamb. And you may at first think, oh, why be the Lamb, which is so weak and stuff? But think about the strength of the Lamb because of the connection to the divine. And it does not need to be like a lion that it has to roar or anything. The strength lies in the fact that it knows its connection to the divine. Which brings me to, you've heard the story from the Bible as well, David and Goliath. We know that story, right? Goliath being this massive human being full of muscle. He had all the battle gear on. And here comes this young kid with a slingshot. And he knew that God was with him. And we know what happened. He defeated the giant. Because he knew that his strength lied in his connection to God, to the divine. One of my, I'm thinking about a couple of stories here. I'm sure we all have stories where we've had to use strength in one way or another, and we consider, how did we use strength? Did we use it for our good, or did we not use it enough to get through what we needed to? My first thought, of course, is when, it's been a few years now, I'm glad I'm forgetting it, I got diagnosed with colon cancer. And my first thought was, okay, why in the world would I get such a thing? I always thought I was taking care of myself. But I'm thinking about the fact that I was rigid in my mind, in my mental attitude. If you believe in these things about how basically all diseases are psychosomatic, I had resentment in me that I thought I had released, but I still had it, and I really believe that that's why I got what I got. And yes, maybe I wasn't 100% eating healthy either, so maybe there was something to it, but I had at that point either take what was coming to me and say, okay, it is what it is, and keep going with my life like nothing was happening, and give up. Or I could use my physical strength, my mental strength, and for me, most importantly, my spiritual strength. Yes, I changed my diet. I searched. One of my sisters, who's a holistic healer, helped me with the diet and other things. I've mentioned it before here. I even went to a place called the Hippocrates Health Institute, which is in West Palm Beach. And they teach you how to eat basically mostly vegan and why you do it. And they teach you all that. And it's not only that, but they kind of show you other things that can cause you to have cancer or other diseases in our world. I mean, we all have phones. I don't think I need to explain with the radio waves and all that. That's not the best thing for you either. And I remember going there and thinking, I know they're going to help me with the physical, and I know they're going to help me with the mental, because they got a couple of psychologists there that work with you. And I'm like, I'll do my spiritual on my own because I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to work on all three of them. Little did I know that just by being there with everybody else that was there and being in communion with all the other people that were there for their own reasons, that was my spiritual food, if you will. And that's what I got my spiritual strength. I may have said it before. Out of that time, I was there for 3 weeks. I made 2 best friends for the rest of my life. How did that happen? I made a decision. I made a conscious decision to go there, spend the money, spend the time, and work on myself, to heal myself. And I knew I had to have the strength to stay there, because I'm not going to kid you, it's not easy being in that place, eating what they feed you, and having to go every day to classes to learn about why you're doing things and what things you shouldn't do. It's not easy, but you have to have that mental fortitude to do it so that you can heal yourself. So yes, you want to start with prayer and meditation. Do it consistently, do it daily. I would suggest start with 5 minutes and slowly work up, 10, 15, whatever you can get yourself to do. When I was working, because I recently retired, I always made sure that I got up a half hour, 45 minutes earlier than I would normally have to get ready to go to work. And I was going in at 6:30 in the morning. So you can imagine what time I was getting up. But I had to have the mental fortitude to make myself do that so that I can have a consistent practice of prayer and meditation. And because of that and all the decisions I've made, I knew what was best for me. Even so, I was doing all the things that I thought I was doing for myself to make myself better. I also had the wherewithal, and I dare say the strength, to realize that I could not do everything. And I had to let the doctors do what they do also to help me, and so I had to have surgery. But it went better than I would have expected it. Even the doctor that did surgery in me could not believe that this mass that I had in me, even though it was growing, it never spread anywhere else. So I really credit everything else that I was doing for myself, and I'm glad that I had the strength to keep going. Thank you. So yeah, let's just work on our physical strength. And it could be something as just physically start trying to stay healthy. You don't have to lift weights, but maybe, do a walk around the neighborhood or whatever every morning. Work on your mental strength. Change your attitude about how you see things. And maybe even kind of convince yourself that doing a little exercise might be enjoyable, even if you don't like it. And yes, let's put them all together with our spiritual strength by constantly and as often as we can realizing that we need to become aware of our connection to the divine so that we know that whatever decisions we make, whatever comes into our mind is coming from divine mind as well, so that we know what's best to do for ourselves physically and mentally and, of course, spiritually, including coming to church like here. Thank you.